a trailblazer who has opened the door for others, a professional reference for a generation of umpires. Langton, good evening. Are you with us? Nice to have you.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm
And good
very
evening,
well,
everyone on the
thank
call.
you. Langton, I'm sure the listeners have got a few questions for you. To start us off, I'm going to ask you just to tell us how you started umpiring, what made you decide to not play or quit playing, and talk us through your career from when you started until that famous day that Ryan Frieda reported on, your test match debut in April 2021. The floor is yours.
First of all, I will start by congratulating you and Abdullah for organizing this. You've educated a lot of umpires all over Africa and hopefully all over the world. People will be watching this and be taking part in your courses. And to Abdullah, congratulations on being an Umpire of the Year nominee in South Africa. Unfortunately, well, you didn't win, but it tells me that you're doing something very well. And I hope you continue doing what you're doing. And to get to the question you asked me, I played cricket for about 10 years, and my competition here in Zimbabwe was very stiff because I was a leg spinner, and my competition was the likes of Graham Creamer, and there was no I was going to beat a guy like that. So I thought because I wasn't as talented as he was, I should focus on school because I was probably better at that. And because I enjoyed cricket, when I went to university, I decided, let me take up umpiring and still be involved in the game. I actually took it up as a hobby because a friend of mine had said, because you want to be involved, you could work on umpiring and be involved in the game still. And I took the exams, went through the processes. Fortunately for me, it worked, and I am where I am today.
Awesome.
I don't know if
Thank
that
you so
answers.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for that brief introduction, Langton. Very humble man, I must say. Whenever we congratulate you about your achievements, you always deflect the congratulations back to the person who's congratulating you. But I think that's one of the great traits of a good umpire, isn't it? To be humble, yet strong in your beliefs of your abilities.
I would say so, yeah, because one of the hardest things to do in cricket, in my view, is umpire, because there's a 50% chance that you are wrong, and nobody wants to be wrong. And we do this week in, week out, knowing that we could be wrong, but we still go in umpire cricket, knowing that whatever decision we're going to make might be the wrong one. So it takes a lot of guts to umpire. It takes a lot of being able to say to yourself, hang on, I might be wrong, but the game goes on. Because when you guys were speaking about law 2, which is the umpire, knowing that law, does it say the umpire has to make a correct decision? We spoke about when you started off, you talked about what do you call it? The spirit of cricket and accepting an umpire's decision. It doesn't say the umpire's decision has to be right, but we accept it, hoping it's right. And that's part of the game. We go through the punishment week in, week out, and we, especially when you umpire the type of cricket that you and Abdullah umpire, and I see Mazizi Gampu is on the call as well. He's umpired quite a bit of cricket. It's good to see other umpires supporting what you guys are doing. So I'm happy that you've got a lot of people taking part in this, and you're inspiring a generation, so to speak.
Awesome. Thanks, Langton. So we're going to open up the questions and answers to the floor. You can either type your question into the chat box, or you can raise your virtual hand, and I will acknowledge you to please unmute your microphone and ask your question to Langton. Before we go to the candidates' questions, Abdullah's got a question for you, Langton.
Yes, Abdullah.
Good evening, Langton. How are you?
Hi, Abdullah. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
No, good, good. Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words, Langton. Coming from you, it means a lot. I'm looking at your stats that's shown on the screen. From Test matches to ODIs to T20s, first class, list A's, and I'm sure you stand local cricket as well, club cricket. So my question to you is:
Yep.
you've stood at the highest level, you stood at provincial level, you're standing at you're doing club games as well. In terms of preparation. How do you prepare for the different levels? Do you have exactly the same type of preparation, or does it differ from format to format or level to level? Over to you, Langton.
I would say, thank you for that. That's a very good question. I would actually say it's harder preparing for junior cricket and club cricket because one, there's no match ref involved. Two, there's no TV involved. So whatever I do, whatever decision I'm going to make in that game, whether wrong or right, is going to have an impact on a player, and they can't review my decision. And if there's a disciplinary problem or an issue, then I have to deal with it. Whereas in international cricket, I just write it up and the match ref deals with it. So my approach when I'm doing club cricket or schoolboy cricket is I want to give myself the best opportunity to get decisions right. Whereas, well, it's still the same approach, but how I then focus when I'm on field and as I prepare for the games is slightly different to what I do when I'm umpiring a test match. With a test match or an ODI, I'm focusing more on how do I create relationships with players so that I get them on my good side. When I'm umpiring a guy like Steve Smith, it's not the same when I'm umpiring a schoolboy, because I know with the Steve Smith, sure, egos might be involved, but if I show him respect, he's probably going to work with me. But when you do a club game, club cricket is really tough in my view. So my approach is slightly different. With club cricket, my approach is more, let me get decisions right. With televised cricket, it's more, let me build relationships with players, because decisions, whether right or wrong, everyone at home who's watching will be able to know whether it's right or wrong. Whereas in a club game, it's me and the player that think, maybe I got it right, maybe I got it wrong. But with a test match, with this DRS, I will know right away that I got it right or wrong. So I don't think about decisions when I'm umpiring higher level cricket. I don't know if that answers your question, Abdullah.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for that, Langton. Over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Langton. Thanks, Abdullah. We've got a hand up in the chat box. Rohan Weatherspoon, please unmute your microphone and the floor is yours to ask Langton a question.
Hi, Langton. How are you?
Hi, Rohan. How are you?
Not too bad. I had the opportunity to umpire with Abdullah in the over 50 Veteran World Cup in Cape Town last year. I think this year.
Yeah, this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, this year. I just have a question. I know Tom had mentioned that there was a game where McGrath had injured his ankle, and after the toss, but prior to the start of the game, the opposing captain, gave a consent that he could replace McGrath with another player. Now, my question is, this captain had a list of nominated players, 11 players. Unfortunately, only 10 players showed up. So he started the game with 10 players on the field. He fielded first and he started the game with 10 players on the field. That innings was completed, and then his team was batting. When 7 wickets was down, he came on the field and asked the opposing captain if he could replace the player that didn't show up. There was one guy that didn't show up for the entire match. Nobody knows whether he was injured or whatever. Nobody knows. But he didn't show up for that game. Can the umpire allow that captain to agree to replace that player almost at the end of the game? The last wicket was batting.
So according to the laws, it says it has to have there has to be consent from the opposite captain, right? And we're not involved in stuff like that, because spirit of cricket is a captain to captain thing. and we help guide it, but it's not our responsibility. So if the opposing captain says no, there's nothing we can do. And that's part of the reason why I said umpiring this club cricket, schoolboy cricket, all of that is harder because there's no match ref. In cases where match ref is present, they will then have the final decision if the other captain decides no, and the other guy wants there to be a substitute or a replacement player or whatever it is, or in addition to the number of players that was there. So I think it's so much harder being involved in cricket where you don't have all these luxuries, but it makes you learn more about the laws and playing conditions in that tournament and what we're supposed to do as umpires. And as far as the laws tell us, if the other captain says no, then we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the other captain said yes, because this batting captain was trying to convent the law because he knew the guy wouldn't show up. He was waiting for him to show up. If he had showed up, then he could bat after five wickets were down. So this guy didn't show up for the entire. So he tried to reconvent the law by asking the opposing captain if he can replace that guy so he can try and win the game. The captain said yes. Could an umpire intervene and said, well, that's unfair play because the last guy is batting?
If it's after 5 wickets or if they serve their time, we can't really get involved because at the end of the day, and I don't know if that will help anyone on the score. So a lot of times as umpires, we want to be in charge, but we're actually not supposed to be in charge. It's not our responsibility to be in charge of the game. It's our responsibility to manage the game and not insert ourselves in the game. So once the other captain said yes, we had no responsibility, or we have no responsibility other than to allow it because the other guy allowed it. That's as far as our umpiring should go.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for the question, Mr. Weatherspoon. Lovely to hear your Canadian Caribbean accent once again. And hope to see you next year at the Over 40s World Cup back here again in Cape Town.
No, you might see me
I was
in the
actually
USA.
going to ask if you're from the Caribbean islands.
Yeah, I am from Guyana, but I'm presently living in Canada. I'm Canadian umpire. But Abdullah, I would see
I
you.
like Guyana. That's one of my favorite places.
Okay. But I would see you, Abdullah, in the USA because I would be doing the over 50 USA tournament there. I think 3 of South African umpires were invited to go to the US this year.
That's correct, Mr. Weatherspoon. It's myself, Abdullah, and Warren Weingard, who was also involved in the Over 50s World Cup. So we'll see you in a month, in exactly 1 month's time in Houston.
Yes, in Houston, Texas.
Awesome.
Tom, do you just mind me just greeting Mr. Weatherspoon? Hello, Mr. Weatherspoon. Great to hear your voice again. Looking forward seeing you in just about a month's time.
Yes,
have a good evening, Mr. Weatherspoon.
Yes, you too.
Yes, sir. Okay, bye, Mr. Weatherspoon. Over to you, Tom.
Next hand up is Christopher Felix. Christopher, I see your microphone is on. The floor is yours. Please address your question to Langton.
Good evening, Tom. Abdullah, thank you firstly very much for this opportunity, and Tom, especially you in the communication. It's been done very swiftly and I appreciate it. Langton, if I may ask a very quick one, perhaps it has been covered when this part was discussed. So in Test cricket, the new ball, which may be taken at 80 overs. So my question, so often the fielding side would feel, no, they're not going to take the new ball immediately. Maybe they feel the ball is swinging or whatever. When they do opt to take the new ball, must it be at the start of an over or can it be in the middle of the over?
Good question, Chris. The good thing is it can be any time after 80 overs. So it can be 80.1 overs, 80.3 overs. At any time after 80 overs, when the ball is dead, you can replace the ball. They can ask for the new ball at any time when the ball is dead after 80. But what needs to happen is, so let's say they take it at, say, 81.5 overs. They have to bowl 80 overs with that ball. You won't say because we bowled 80 with the previous one, we have to bowl, say, 80.1 to make, or 79.1 to make it 80 overs because it was a part over. We have to bowl 80 complete overs with the new ball to make another change with that ball, if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was especially thinking of momentum, perhaps the change in the new ball when you feel you are particularly under the pump, having initially opted not to change the ball and suddenly, okay, let's take that break in momentum. But thank you so much. I appreciate your response.
You're welcome, Christopher.
Thanks for the question, Christopher. Next hand up is Peter Ongondo. Please unmute your microphone and address Langton with your question.
The legendary Peter Ongondo.
Good to see you. I had a similar question, so you have answered that, but I can also ask another one. With the issue of captains agreeing, does it also apply when the umpire thinks that the pitch is a bit dangerous for play, and then both the captains think that it's fit to play? Is the decision stays with the umpire, or if they think it's fit for play, you can allow them to play?
So once both captains say they want to play and the umpires have said to them, well, we think it's dangerous, and the captains decide, both of them, they want to play, then they play. As I said earlier, we're there to manage the game, but if the players want to play, we're there for the players. So once they've said ground, weather, and light is okay for us, don't worry, we can play, then we play. Because it's not up to us to say, no, we should not play. I don't know if that helps, Peter.
Yeah, that helps. That helps.
Where we come in as umpires, as
a simple.
Yes.
Just a simple one. You said with the league cricket, if you get a decision wrong, do you talk to the players after the game about it, or how do you handle it after in the next few overs? Does it affect you going forward, or you just let it go?
Me personally, I'm affected by every decision I make,
Yes,
good or bad. It affects me. But what I try not to do is to dwell on a decision. Once I've made it, I don't worry about it in the moment. Because at the end of the day, I've already made the decision. So dwelling on it in the game will lead me to making more mistakes if it was a mistake. Or if it was a good decision, me celebrating too early will shift my focus from what's happening in the game and end up being a distraction. So what I don't do in a game is dwell on a decision. Two, to answer the question on whether I discuss it with a player or not, I think what helps is, because I've been doing this for quite a bit, I've been umpiring for 18 years, you sort of get to gauge players' attitudes. And if it's someone that, say, for example, I've umpired for a long time, give an example, a Sean Williams, if he talks to me about my decision during the game, if he thinks, I don't quite agree with that decision, then we can talk about it. But if it's someone that I'm not used to, I probably don't talk about it. I dismiss them, but in a respectful way. It's a decision I had to make in the moment. Remember, my decision is just an opinion. It's just unfortunate that my opinion holds more value over anyone else's on field. So they have to live with it. And I have to live with it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Great answer there, Langton. Thanks for the questions, Peter. Next hand up is Afak Alam. Please unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Hi, Langton, sir. How are you?
Hi, Afak. How are
Can you hear
you?
me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, sir. How are you? Actually, I'm here in UAE. Actually, I'm from Pakistan. So I start
Oh, good.
the umpiring here, and I'm doing nearby 500 matches with the local teams, actually. So this is my first time to talk any international umpire. So my question to you, sir, what was the toughest decision? I mean, when you are taking, and it's like you feel it's a very tough decision for me. And normally here, most of the teams are not agreed for the leg before decisions, which we are taking. So I hope you understand what I'm asking to you.
Yeah. Well, so I guess with most cricket, LBWs are the most contentious decisions. But at the end of the day, once you make a decision, so this is my advice to any umpire. And now Tom had said to me, I should answer this question for him. Well, he had asked me to answer the question for him, and it's in line with what you just asked now. That this is my advice to any umpire in the world. Once you make a decision, don't ever try to justify it to anyone, one, and don't try to suck up to captains. And Tom mentioned this when he was talking about law one. We don't suck up to anyone. Once you make a decision, we're expecting that, one, it's the best decision you could make in that moment. Two, whether people agree with it or not, it's already been made. So it's not going to change because people don't like the decision. What you need to do for yourself is to make sure that once you make any decision, if you feel some type of way about it before you get a captain's report, and I actually don't look at captain's reports, have your own assessment of yourself, do a self-assessment, and be honest with yourself and go, was that the right decision? And more than just the decision itself, think about the processes. Were your processes for that decision correct? The decision, you could guess and get it right, but if your processes are what they should be for an LBW, for example, with this one, was the ball a legal delivery? Did it pitch between wicket and wicket? Was the bat involved? Was it going to hit the stumps? Sort of it. If those processes are right for you, don't worry about what people are going to say, because not everyone's going to be happy with every decision you make. Even when there's DRS, I can give you an example of Steve Smith and who people call Manas Labuskaghni. They are never happy with decisions, even when they are wrong on DRS. They are not happy still. So don't worry about what people think. Worry about what you feel about your decision, and work on that, manage yourself, and track your performance from there.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if that answers you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that question, Afak. And something I usually do at the beginning of these courses, which I forgot to do this evening, is to ask everybody to type in where they are in the world of cricket today, so that we can see the various countries that are represented and we can all learn from each other. So I'm going to start. I'm going to type into the chat box, Cape Town, South Africa. And I hope you all follow suit, and you'll be able to realize that this is a global audience with the Zimbabwean umpire, a presenter from Lesotho, a law specialist from Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town, and we now have about 80 candidates still in the chat, in the box, waiting to ask questions. So next question is from Diraviam Senthil, and apologies if I pronounce your name incorrectly. You may unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Good evening, Langton. Thank you so much for participating in this one. And this is a very good opportunity for us to ask our question. Now, my first question is like how you will prepare mentally as well as physically for the test matches, because you are going to stand for 5 days. First question.
Thanks for that, Drian. Right. Thank you for that question, Drian. Do you want me to answer, or you want to ask all your questions, or you want me to answer one by one?
You can answer this question. What kind of basic exercise you need to follow, maybe?
All right, so I'll answer that question for you. What I try to do is, so right now I can tell you in 3 weeks, I'm meant to go to Pakistan for Asia Cup. I start by making sure I know what the conditions are like where I'm going, weather-wise. So I start preparing myself for that. And wherever I go in umpire, I then go, what's the culture like there? How do the pitches play? What are the weather conditions? So I know how to prepare. So I know I'm going to Pakistan. It's going to be a bit hotter than what it was the last time I was there. I start making sure that when I'm exercising, I exercise when it's the hottest during the day here for me, so that when I get there, I'm not exhausted when I'm umpiring. I start hydrating. I start making sure that the food I eat helps me focus a bit more. For example, my diet 2-3 weeks before a series is mostly going to be vegetables. It's mostly going to be nuts. It's mostly going to be a lot of water, because I want to make sure I'm hydrated so that my mind is alert, my eyes see well, and I don't get tired easily. And I don't know if that answers your question. Then mentally, I then tell myself, which is what I say to myself before every game I umpire when there's TV or DRS, that it's okay to do this in a game because the right decision has been made by technology. So I'm not too bothered when I do that during the game. Of course, everyone wants to get decisions right, but for those moments where I am going to have to overturn my decision, I don't dwell on it during the game, because a lot of people will think that you doing this means that you're a bad umpire. No, it doesn't. It just means the decision you made in that moment was a bad one, and technology corrected it. So once you start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm a bad umpire because I did this 3 times in a test match, there's more chances of you getting stuff wrong. So the mental side of it is actually as important as the physical side, the physical training that I put into it. And I'm fortunate that I have an umpire coach. So I start talking to my umpire coach going into a series, and we start talking about the sort of things that I might encounter in a game. Does that answer your question?
Thank you so much. You have answered my question. The second question is like LBW, there is a next is no ball in the height no ball above the height, the popping crease. So that is also sometimes if it is like a league match or something, so they will ask like it will be lower than the, it will be higher than the batsman will tell always it is higher than the waist. But the fielding side will tell no, it is lower only. So those kind of things, how you will take a decision like LBW, whatever the decisions, to be honest in your mind, what you have, as per the process, what you have identified, then you can take a decisions.
Right. It's unfortunate I don't have it on me now, but I was going to show you what I do when I then do my self-assessments. And to answer your question, each time I umpire a game, I go back to my notes and go, what is important to me in this game? Whether it's a club game, it's a school's game, it's whatever game it is. And I never worry about what people who are watching or the teams are going to think about my decision. Because again, it's just an opinion, but it is an opinion that I am paid to make. So I can't worry about what people think about my decisions. And as you progress in your umpiring, you should never worry about what a coach is going to say about your decisions, what a captain is going to say about you in a report, because it's not as important as how you are going to assess yourself at the end of the day. If your assessment is honest, when you make decisions, whether you felt I should call no ball because I felt it was above the waist, or whether I should give LBW because I thought it was low enough and was going to hit the wickets, that's what matters, not what anyone else is going to say to you. If you are wrong, let's say there's video footage, and I encourage people to watch the video footage of what they do when they're processing stuff. If it shows something different to what you were thinking in the moment, then you go, okay, so I wasn't in the right space, so I wasn't in the right moment. What do I do to improve on this? And you can't worry about what a spectator, a coach, a player is going to say, because they're biased as well. What you might want to do, depending on who you're umpiring with, is talk to your colleague at the end of the day or at the end of the game, then get feedback from them on what they thought you should work on. It helps if you're umpiring with someone who's a bit more experienced than you, because they can guide you better. But at the end of the day, still, what you then think when you're assessing yourself matters more than what everyone else says. Does that help in any way?
Thank you so much for the answer. It's really helped. Yeah.
You're welcome, Drian. You're welcome.
Awesome questions being asked and brilliant answers being given. Next hand up is Navneeth. Please unmute your microphone and address your question to Langton.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This is Navneet. I'm from Canada, and I would like to ask 3 quick questions. The first one is about change of ball. So is there any advice you have apart from the measuring gauge that we use? Do you use any other technique where you know that the ball has to be changed?
To answer that question, I will start by saying, when you put it in the gauge, you'd have said to yourself, hang on, something's wrong here. So the first thing you need to do is make a physical inspection of the ball. You should see that something's wrong with the ball, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing is going to the gauge. So once you then say to yourself, I think there's something wrong with the ball, the gauge isn't what's going to make you change the ball. The gauge is what's going to cover your bases when you then change the ball. Same as when people go, the light is bad, the light meter isn't what's making you say, let's go off because the light is bad. It's your eyes. So once your eyes tell you that the ball is not in the same condition as it was, the ball gauge is only going to protect you so that it's more of a science than an opinion that you made. It removes emotion out of it for the players. Then they think, oh yeah, did you see the ball didn't go through the ball gauge? Or no, it went through the wrong side of the ball gauge. So it serves to protect you when you then change the ball. What I encourage people to do is when a wicket falls, you check the ball. If it's in a T20 game because you're only using one ball, if it's in a multi-day game where you're using one ball. If a wicket falls, if there's a break in play, make sure people see you physically looking at the ball and handing it to the next person, the bowler, or whoever it is. Because once people see that happening, when you then change the ball, it's not a surprise for anyone because everyone will say, the umpires were looking at the ball, we're checking the ball regularly. And if you umpire in cricket where there is a match ref, each time you make a ball check, you speak to the TV umpire or the match ref, say ball checked, all good, ball checked, there's a mark, whatever. So that when the ball is changed, there's some paper trail of it, and people go, it's not something we didn't expect because we saw these people were doing this often. Does that help in any way, Pankaj?
Yeah, thank you. And my next question is, what you did or what you would advise somebody who's young, who's doing club cricket, first few years of umpiring, what they should do to improve their decision-making skills?
Decisions are just the last bit of what I want people, or what I encourage people to work on. It's unfortunate that the world looks at decisions more than anything else. Umpiring has other soft skills. It's unfortunate decision making is the only measurable skill. There's your communication, there's your alertness, awareness, fitness. There's stuff like how you treat players and how you handle pressure. All that stuff we can't measure. It's only decisions that people can go, he got an LBW decision wrong, or she got an LBW decision wrong. But it should be the least of your worries, because for you to be umpiring, it means, well, I would think that you're a good decision maker. It's the other stuff that I encourage people to work on, because not too many people focus on that. How competent are you with laws under pressure? That's important. How do you deal with calculations when you come off in inclement weather? That's important. Your decision making should be the least of your worries. So I encourage everyone on the call to start thinking about those soft skills. And Abdullah can tell you that he wasn't nominated to be umpire of the year because he was such a great decision maker, because it's not only about that, it's all those other things around that matter as well. So don't just focus on your decisions, focus on all the other things that make you a complete umpire. Decision making should take care of itself the more you do games. And I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. That was very helpful. And my last question, just from this conversation, I was under the understanding that the ground weather and light, the umpires are the sole judge of ground weather and light. And you said like if both captains agree, then you can allow them to play. So I'm a bit confused over there.
They are the sole judges of ground weather and light if you look at law 2. But if you then look at what it says in, like this book, for example, the cricket that I umpire, if both captains want to play, we can't stop them from playing. But we are the sole judges. What that means, what that means is when we say we think it's bad and we agree on it, if one person then goes, we don't think it's bad, at the end of the day, it's up to the umpire. But if both captains still want to play, they have taken us out of the equation, and they're taking a position to say if anything happens, we're absolving the umpires of whatever else happens, and they're not responsible for injuries because we've said we want to play. Okay. I hope that clears up the confusion.
Okay. Thank you so much. It was great talking to an international umpire. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Navneet. Just remember that we are presenting the laws of cricket, the 42 laws of cricket. We'll present 40 of them. But Langton just referred to the ICC playing conditions. So playing conditions will always overrule the law where there is conflict in what the playing condition says and the law says. The playing conditions of that particular match or tournament will overrule the law. For the purposes of the exam, please always refer to the law that we are presenting in this course. Next hand up, I'm very excited to see my legend, the first class national panel umpire of Cricket South Africa, Mazizi Kampu. How are you, Zizi?
I'm all right, thanks in yourself, legend. Tom.
Very well, thanks. Good to hear your voice and looking forward to seeing you next week for our panel conference. Your question to Langton, please.
Yeah, Langton, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Mazizi. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, man. Thank you for taking this opportunity to be with us. It really means a lot to us. And thanks for sharing your experience. We learn, as you know, like on this game of cricket, if you stop learning, then you should stop umpiring or playing. So thank you so much for that.
That's very true.
I've got
no, thank you for
a
inviting
question
me
that I need to ask you. All right, thank you. I've got a question which is going to help most of the guys that are actually doing tournaments, which is the Tom had a presentation about it, which is a Cricket South Africa tournament. So when you get to those tournaments, there's a competition that's very uptight and everybody wants to be on top. And you get people that will do things, obviously, just to be on top or be the best so that they can be able to do the finals or to be ranked #1 for the tournament. I'm sure there's something similar to that you have come through as well. And how did you manage those characters that you meet? And how did you make sure that you bypass and be the better person and still your work comes out and speak for yourself so that you can be nominated for maybe to go up level higher or maybe even making it to the national panel of Zimbabwe? That's my first question.
It's tough umpiring in tournaments to start with. And I've been fortunate that I used to umpire in South Africa in the under 15, under 17, all those weeks. I took part in those, and I know exactly what you mean when you say people compete. And even when I became a first-class umpire, there was a lot of competition, people wanting to show the umpire selectors, the umpire coaches, that they are better than the next person. I will say to anyone on this call and every umpire that I work with that once you start thinking about competition, you are not in the right business. The only person you should compete with or against is yourself. you should only want to be better than who you were yesterday when you umpired. So I know you've umpired 20 first-class games, and you should say to yourself, in these 20 first-class matches that I've umpired, what's important to me and where do I want to get to, without showing that the next person is bad or wrong or you're better, because it's not about that. They will always, once you start again, you make it about competition. And your setup, for example, you have a guy like Arno Jacobs who hasn't been umpiring for that long, but is ranked higher than some guys that have been umpiring for a very long time. It's not about competition. It shouldn't be about where the person goes. We are all on different paths, even though we are all umpiring. It should be about how do I get to be the best umpire that I can be, regardless of whatever level you end up at, because it's not about where you end up. And for example, when Adrian Holstock went onto the elite panel, there were 5 people in contention for that post, for that position on the elite panel, but he wasn't competing against anyone. Because if you know Holler, you know what he's about. He's not about competition. And he's all about trying to make himself better. And once you work on yourself and try to improve yourself, try to improve your knowledge of laws and playing condition, calculations, the soft skills, and obviously the decision making, because people look at that. You don't need to worry about whether you're going to make it in a tournament or not. Sure, it sucks, but at the end of the day, all you can do is work on improving on your skills little by little. What I say to myself, for example, is I want to be 10% better than I was in my last game. And I have it written down in my notes that what does a 10% improvement look like for me? Then I say, okay, I want to be 10% fitter. What does that mean? If I was running 2 kilometers, I want to run 2.2 kilometers next time. If I was doing this, I want to do a little bit more so that I am a bit better than I was the last time I umpired. If I managed players well, I want to do it even better. And how do I do that? And you're a first-class umpire. It could mean when you go to the panel conference, you're not trying to show people that you know, but you're trying to show people that I am where I am because I deserve to be here. Not that you're competing against those 14 other guys that will be there or 20 other guys that'll be there. You're competing against Mazizi and not anyone else. Does that help in any way?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. And there's one question that you did answer, but I just feel that I need to find out what's your coping mechanism, because you spoke about recovering from making a bad decision. So it's something that's easier said than when you have to do it, because at some point you can't help stressing about a wrong decision, especially in your level where you have to overturn the decision, and then the camera is going to be on your face, and your face won't lie. I mean, the expression that you're going to be giving there, it's a true reflection of how you personally feel about it. And then the coping mechanism that you use that works for you now, that you focus on the next ball, which is the very most important ball. And in your personal capacity, what is it that you do?
I will start by telling you that I used to worry so much about getting decisions right. And when I got a decision wrong, it affected me a lot. And because I work with Carl Herter, I've been working with him for 10 years now. What he then said to me, and what other elite umpires have said to me, is it's just a game of cricket. If you make it that simple, I know it's not that easy when you're umpiring. It's just a game. Sure, you want to be the best you can be, but at the end of the day, it's just a game. What one of the umpire coaches, his name is David Levins, started working on with me 2 years ago was the acronym WIN, WIN, which stands for what's important now. So when I make a decision, I get it right, I get it wrong, I've already made it. It's not what's important right now. What's important right now is the next ball. I will do a game where, and I can tell you in the World Cup last year, I had a decision as a TV umpire. You probably shouldn't get decisions wrong as a TV umpire. but I got a horrible decision wrong. And I said to myself, this is only the 7th over in the game. If I dwell on this right now, I am going to crash. I've made a decision. It's wrong. I am the first one to admit to myself that I am wrong. I park it. I will beat myself up about it after the game. But right now, I still have 13 overs in this innings and another 20 in the next inning. So I've got 33 overs to go in the game. And I still have to make decisions. I can't worry about one decision I got wrong. Let me work on making sure that my mind is clear and I'm in the moment for the next one, so that when a harder decision comes or an easier decision comes, I am in the best frame of mind to get it right. Again, I said earlier, it's just an opinion, and it is an opinion if you really think about it. There's only one of two outcomes with a decision. It's either it's wrong or it's right. If it's wrong, tough luck, it happens. If it's right, good, move on. It has happened. I think what people won't tell you is you are actually more likely or more susceptible to get decisions wrong after you get a really good decision right, because you celebrate too early.
Yeah.
And success is an equally bad thing to have dwelling on your mind in a game as much as failure is. When you make a decision, my umpire coach has said to me, and this is something that we've been working on for 4 years now, that when you make a decision, the worst thing that you can do for yourself is to question the decision after you've made it, because it's already happened. Leave it alone, focus on the next thing. Leave it alone, focus on the next thing. And what I try to do is not a coping mechanism as such. It's, I don't know what to call it. It's something I do to track errors for myself. I say to myself, what am I thinking of in the moment? Because I used to make decisions, bad decisions, close to breaks. And I realized that it was because I was now thinking, there's only 2 overs to go in the game. Then I start worrying about the end of the game, and something happens in the moment and I miss it. So I now don't worry about what's going to happen in 3 balls or 5 balls or 10 balls. I make it 1 ball at a time. And I talk to myself every single ball in a game. And I tell myself, this is the most important ball in the game. Just as the ball is about to bowl, I go, this is the most important ball to me in the game. And that's how I cope with whatever happens in a game. I hope that helps, Mazizi.
Yeah, it does help a lot. Thank you so much for unpacking that. So the last but not least question, I think there's more hands. You're still going to be here for long. I think this is more related. You won't find it in the law book. It's more of a personal one. And how do you make sure that your work-life balance is intact? Because believe you me, most people do have families. You travel a lot. You're not there for your loved ones. Could be your kids, could be your niece, nephews, and that has an impact on you traveling as well. So, how do you keep? Because before each game that you're going to be attending, your mindset needs to be on the right place, and you need to be happy as well, at a happy space, so that you can be able to perform at your utmost best.
Part of what helped me, and this is following up from the previous question, part of what helped me think, hang on, this is just a game at the end of the day, was my wife. Because I would tell her, oh, I got this decision wrong, I did this, I did that. And the answer she would give was, well, you got other stuff right in the game, didn't you? And that used to piss me off, because I'd go, you don't understand. I'm an umpire and we are in a competition, whether we like it or not. Everyone wants to be better than themselves and the next person and all the umpires in the world. And I go, she doesn't understand. But she's shaped how I think now, because it's just a game. So you'll get stuff right, you'll get stuff wrong. And she's the biggest support network that I've got, because for me, what happens in a game, whether good or bad, if I can go on a call with my wife and my son at the end of a game, that's what matters to me, because that's the most important bit to me. Sure, I want to be one of the best umpires in the world, Sure, I want to get everything right in a game, but that's not always going to happen. What needs to happen, what I say to myself needs to happen before I umpire any series, is to make sure that I have a good-ish home life balance. So before I go for any series, I try to make sure that the home stuff is sorted. If I have bills to pay, they're paid. So I don't think about a bill when I'm umpiring. I want my mind to be clear when I'm umpiring. I don't want to think, oh my goodness, I owe this person money. I can't think about that. I shouldn't think about that because there'll be an appeal in that moment. So when I'm at home, I'm at home. When I'm at work, I'm at work. So I play with my son as much as I can when I'm at home. And I talk to him as much as I can after a game. I talk to my wife as much as I can. We speak as much as we can when I'm working, so that I keep the home stuff out of my umpiring, out of my mind when I'm umpiring. So what you are umpiring a lot of cricket, you'll be in Cape Town one game, you'll be in Pretoria the next game. What I would advise you to do is make sure that your support network, your family, your kids, your friends know that when it's time for you to work, you are switched off to everything else except the work. And when you're not working, you make sure that you're focusing on what you're doing in that moment, so that when the time comes for you to switch off to that and be focused on work, all you're doing in the moment is making sure that the work stuff's sorted. I hope that helps.
It helps a lot. Thank you so much, Langton, for the answers. And Tom, thanks for the opportunity. And Abdullah, keep doing up the great work there in the Western Cape. We're looking forward to join you guys meet those standards.
And thank you for being on the call, because it shows me, I was saying that to someone just now, that it shows me how committed you are to making sure that you're growing as well, because you don't need to be on the call. You're already a first-class umpire, but you're on the call, you want to learn something new, and I wish you the very best in your umpiring.
Thank you so much, Langton, and same applies to you. Have a good season ahead of you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Zizi. Always good to hear from you, and looking forward to seeing you next week, Thursday, for the panel conference. Dennis Burns, a ICC umpire coach, he says about umpires that they will talk until the cows come home. So, ladies and gents,
yes, that is true.
In the interest of Langton's time, and also for the rest of the candidates on the course, can we please limit questions to one per person? So Dheeraj, your hand is up. Please unmute your microphone and the floor is yours to address Langton.
Thank you very much, Tom, for the opportunity. And it's so amazing to hear, Langton, your thought process of how you go to games, etc. It's like gold mine of information for someone who's starting. So thank you for sharing all the nuggets that you've been so far. My question is kind of a little tangential, I think, to then what we're hearing so far on the call. Like, having played cricket yourself, how do you motivate yourself to umpire in a game where you're not actively involved as a player yourself, right? Because you've been on the field playing and now you're umpiring. So how do you distinguish and motivate yourself to still be active as an umpire in a game? Of course, you're at the highest level now, but for someone like us who's starting, who actively also play cricket, what is your advice for us?
I would say to you, Dheeraj, don't think about the playing when you're umpiring, because that's the easiest way to screw up. Because once you start thinking like a player, you will make decisions like a player, which is probably not what you want to do. What I mean by that is, say you were a bowler, you are more inclined to think that, let me give this out because a bowler appealed. Or if you're a batter, you probably feel for batters and go not out for the most part. You are now in a different space. You are umpiring. Think about the umpiring only. The playing stuff, when you play, you think about the playing. When you umpire, you make it about the events that you're there to manage. And those events will include decisions. Those events will include, well, by decisions, I mean from wides, no balls, all of that. Those events will include, hopefully not for the most part, dealing with conflict between umpire and a player or umpire and an umpire, those events will include making decisions on ground, weather, and light. So when you start thinking like a player, you are already taking something away from your decision making, which you shouldn't do. Clear all of that out of your space and start thinking about the new role you're in, which is the umpiring. And I think umpiring, like I said earlier, it is the best thing that anyone can do in cricket. And I think it's the hardest thing, because once a batter is out, they don't have to worry about the game. Once a bowler's done with their spell, they don't have to worry about bowling anymore. But you have to think about what's happening in the game every single ball, because you might be called upon to make a decision every single ball. Whether you've made an error or not on the previous ball, that's not going to matter. So the umpiring bit is much tougher and it's more strenuous on the mind, because for the most part, we want to be right, but we're not going to be right all the time. And that will play up on your mind. You will start thinking about how a person reacted to a decision you made. But if you're a player, you don't have to worry about that. So leave the playing side out of it and just stick to what you do as an umpire.
Thank you.
Does that help in any way, Diraj?
Yeah, it does. It's very valuable the way you frame the answer. Thank you for answering.
You are most welcome.
Thank you for that. Great question, Diraj.
Next
hand up is Sharon Atula. Sharon, please unmute your microphone and say hello to Rusere Jr.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Gentlemen. Thank you,
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hi, Langton. Good to hear.
I will start by
you.
saying, before Sharon asks a question,
yeah.
I will tell the group here that Sharon's a very, very dedicated umpire from Uganda. And when I saw her name on the list, I thought, wow, this is pretty good, because I know how much she wants to learn and I know how much she will ask questions, want to grow. And I can tell you now you're in capable hands, because Abdullah and Tom will make sure they help you with all the information you need.
Thank you, Langton, for that, especially introducing me to Mr. Moses and Abdul. So much. Actually, most of the questions that I would probably ask, you answered them to the previous people that asked questions. Do want maybe to help me out on how you or ask you, in your entire 18 years career, have you ever felt like you don't want to do umpiring anymore because you had a bad day, and how did you continue to come back and umpire the next day and being able to inspire even the other people? Because sometimes you come and stand and things don't go the way you expect. And you've mentioned what I was actually suffering from is worry about decisions. Thank you so much. That one, I really got it well. You really explained it to my expectation. And so I won't go back to that. But my question is, have you ever felt like you can't come back and umpire anymore? And how did you back yourself up? How can you help? Probably would not have a chance to answer this question or to ask you this question. And how did you go about it up to now? And thank you for representing us up there as Black people. We are proud. Much respect.
Thank you, Sharon. I will tell you that I have games up to now where I go, maybe I'm in the wrong field, because there are moments where umpiring is really tough, and whatever decision you make is bad. I was at the Women's World Cup last year, 2022, where the first half of the tournament, the first 4 games are umpiring. Every decision I made that was reviewed, I had to overturn my decision. every single decision I made in that first 4 games. And I thought to myself, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I even umpiring? But again, because umpiring is one of those jobs that you take up when you enjoy punishment, I decided, hey, I think I like punishing myself enough to come back. And again, it's just a game. And the second thing was because I had a good support network around me, the umpires that I was with, like Claire Polosak, Paul Wilson, who else was I with? I can't remember the other 2. And Alex Wolf, and who else? I don't remember. Anyway, if you're around good people, they understand that the umpiring will get tough at points where it shouldn't be, but it will. What you need to do, first of all, Sharon, is make sure you've got people that you talk to about your umpiring. The highs, the lows, they celebrate with you, they understand where you're coming from. It might help if you have an umpire there, because they might understand what you're going through in that support network of yours. And people that don't even know anything about the game. And I told you that my wife is one of the biggest biggest supporter and the biggest support network that I've got. And she's never umpired a day in her life. And she probably doesn't care about umpiring, but she cares about me enough to make sure that I look at the bigger picture. So you will get stuff wrong in a game, sure. But the bigger picture is, 1, you're still alive. 2, you still enjoy it. 3, the sun will be up tomorrow. So it doesn't matter whether you had every decision wrong. You wanted to do good, you didn't. That's life. Nobody died. And this is something that Dennis Burns said to me many years ago. Nobody died, it's just a game. And I used to think, this old man is crazy. But because he's from a psychological background, it started making sense to me the more I started applying that philosophy. That, hey, sure, I made a decision. Sure, it was the wrong decision, but nobody died. It makes you not take things too personally. And I know you take things personally because you care, but don't care too much. I know that's bad advice, but it's also very good advice, because once you start caring too much, you will be afraid to umpire, because you go, oh my goodness, this umpire didn't like my decision. This captain didn't like my decision last week. This bowler didn't like my decision in the morning. This batter didn't like my decision whenever. And you will be afraid of making decisions. So once you tell yourself it's just a game, I shouldn't care as much as I do, you probably start making better decisions because you're not afraid of getting decisions wrong. I've gotten to a point where it's okay for me to get decisions wrong. Do I want to get decisions wrong? Of course not. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, I've prepared the best I can. I've given myself the best opportunity to get decisions right. Whether I get them right or not is not up to me anymore. I've done what I can do. The rest is not up to me. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, thank you so much. You've really answered it well, and given me the courage, and maybe other people who are listening. Thank you so much, Mr. Muguruza, for the representation. It's very amazing, and for sure it will be very, very, very grateful to each and everyone who is attending this course. Thank you. All the best.
The last thing I'll say to you and everyone else, Sharon, on that, well, maybe not the last thing, but I think the most important thing that I will say to you is make mistakes, and don't worry about making mistakes, because you will make them. So the more you're comfortable making mistakes and learning from them, the easier it is for you as you go up to make those mistakes and not make them matter as much. Because once you make them matter as much, the problem is, if say you make a mistake in the first over of the game, which I've done before, getting to 50 overs will be difficult. Getting to 90 overs in a test match will be difficult, because you're dwelling on mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes. Batters make mistakes. The best of them make mistakes all the time. Virat Kohli will be out on 0 in one game and will score 100 in the next game. Don't worry about it. You are a good umpire. If you believe in your ability, it should carry you through. Don't worry about decisions, because that's not all you do in a game. If you think about it, in a 50 over game, there are 600 events that happen in 600 balls, more or less. Mm-hmm. And decision making is just one bit of that. You might have a game where you are hinging everything that happened in 600 events on 2 decisions that you got wrong, but you got 598 things right. You counted well in a game. You move square of the wicket, like Abdullah said, that if it's a left and right, we go square to square. You got the wides right. You counted to 600 balls. You called over. You gave the right guard when a batter asked for leg stump. You gave them the right guard. All those things happened correctly. You got 2 decisions wrong. What are you stressing over? Don't worry. It's just a game at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Mr. Langton, for that. I'll surely do that. Thank you so much, Mr. Tom, for the opportunity. I really appreciate. Enjoy your evening, gentlemen.
Yeah. Cheers,
awesome advice, Langton, and great to make your acquaintance, Sharon. Thank you for the kind words. I see we've got Shane Conradi, a former Western Province Cricket Umpires Association umpire, who's just joined us. Good evening, Shane. I hope you're well. We're going to take the last hand that is up. It is Suraj. You've been waiting a long time. We're into the super over now. Please unmute your microphone. The floor is yours to address Langton.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. Good evening to everyone. And yeah, hi. Thank you very much to Abdullah for taking us through the presentations. Yes, it was nice to hear from Langton as well. I would not forget your birthday because it's Mahendra Singh Dhoni's birthday. I'm from India. Okay. Yeah, I have actually quite a few questions, 3 questions in particular, but with the interest of time, I'll stick to one. Maybe I'll ask the other ones tomorrow. Langton, maybe just give me some tips on 4th umpiring roles because I've got matches as 4th umpire.
Right. 4th umpiring is the hardest and easiest job out there. It is the easiest job to screw up in cricket. What I encourage people to do when they're 4th umpires is just ask yourself a question that, what would I expect if I am on field? So what you want to do as a 4th umpire is take the pressure off the on-field umpires so that they don't have the peripheral stuff to worry about. If they don't have to worry about pitch markings and the field dimensions, all of that being sorted, those stumps being pitched correctly, batters' equipment being right, you've taken half the worry from them. All they have to worry about is the stuff that happens from the minute the first ball is bowled, and the rest is not up to them. What you also need to think about as a 4th umpire, for example, is if you're umpiring, you're on field, you are thinking, is the score on the scoreboard correct? As 4th umpire, you want to make sure that you're taking that worry away from the umpire so that they focus again on the stuff that happens in the game itself. So you make sure that the scoreboard is running correctly. You're checking with whoever is scoring to make sure that they're helping you to make sure the scores are correct on the scoreboard. If there is a scoreboard at the ground, you're working with the curator to make sure that during the breaks, the lines are remarked so the umpires don't have to worry about stumpings and all of that without markings, and to make sure that they don't worry about no balls not being given or being given wrongly because the lines are not marked. So you go at drinks breaks, let's remark. You're also thinking, if there's a super over, to mention it to super over right now, if there's a super over, what's meant to happen next? The on-field umpires are already on the field. You take over the responsibility of making sure teams are ready for the super over, making sure balls are where they're supposed to be. So you make sure from first innings, you've got the balls on the side somewhere. You don't mix them with the balls for the second innings. Oh, well, the replacement balls. You also make sure whoever's coming in to bat in the super over is ready for when there is the super over, because you start doing this, say, maybe 2 overs before the final ball is bowled. You go, we could have a super over. So you're thinking like you're on field, and going, what could worry me if I'm on field? Then you take that worry away from the on-field umpire. I don't know if that helps in any way.
Yes, Langton. That helped very much. Can I ask one more question if I can, Tom?
I'm
for
sure
it,
you can.
go
I don't
for
know.
it.
That's up to Tom.
There are 2 overs in the super over, so the
So you
second
bowled the
over
first
of
over,
the
yeah.
super over
Okay. Yeah.
is up.
Yeah, sure. So one more question is, what is the ideal place to be at throughout the match? Because the dugouts might be at opposite ends or quite far away, and pavilion might be at one place, and umpire's room might be at one place, and the side screen might be somewhere else. So what is the ideal position, considering the fact that we have these concepts of timeout and impact players? Which again are the responsibilities of fourth umpire, right, to handle during the match.
You're probably in the best place or best country for you to be a fourth umpire, and that's India, right? And what I would say to you is what you want to do as a fourth umpire. Fourth umpiring is the best role to make relationships with players. So what you want to do as a fourth umpire is be closest to the dugout where the batting side's going to be, because those are the subs that you want to be dealing with more than the subs from the fielding team, because they're the ones that you tell if they're going to bring on gloves, water, anything for the batters. Those are the ones you're talking to. And use that opportunity as a fourth umpire when you're around the players in the dugout to just create a relationship with them. You're not just there as an umpire. You are there as a human being, as a person. So once they connect with you as a person, it'll be easier for you to deal with them next time. Hopefully you'll be on field and they're also playing. They'll go, we know this person. We've created a relationship with this person. It's easier to work with them there because you've already built some sort of rapport with them when you are a fourth umpire. So I think the best thing that can happen to anyone is to be a fourth umpire to start with, because you make the relationship, you build a relationship with players there, and then they see you umpiring later on. So as a fourth umpire, create relationships, sit with the batting team or close to the batting team's dugout, talk to the subs when you can during the break, when you go on field to watch the pitch when it's being rolled and all that. What you also do is give yourself an opportunity to think like you're umpiring. And what I mean by that is during the break, teams will warm up. Go and watch them warm up. Stand when bowlers are bowling. Watch what they're doing. You're not under pressure, but you're going, this bowler is bowling this way, that way. If I'm standing here, this is what I'm seeing. This guy is going over the line. If you can have a word with them that, you're sort of going over the line. Do you want me to call no balls? You're practicing. They're also practicing. So there's no pressure on you, but people will go, this guy is someone that we can work with. You will need those relationships when players are being difficult, because you can go back to that and go, come on, I thought we're this sort of relationship. What's happening? So I've been fortunate that I've been a fourth umpire for a very, very long time. And I've built relationships with players when I was a fourth umpire, which is now helping me now when I have to be on field with the same players. I'll give an example. The first time I met Yuzvendra Chahal, I was a fourth umpire. When I debuted, he debuted as well. He was a sub. I was a sub for the umpires. We debuted in the same match, and I think we've got a good relationship together. And when I umpire him, he's one person that I can actually feel comfortable around, because I know if he's going to be a problem, not that it is, I know how to deal with him. Does that help?
Yes, Langton, very much. Like, great, wonderful insights, actually. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll keep these things
You are
in
most
mind.
welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope you will be around for all the sessions as well.
I hope so. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the
And
session
all the
today.
best in your fourth umpiring duties coming up.
Thank you so much, Tom, Langton.
Thanks for the questions, Suraj. I think great insight. We hardly ever cover fourth umpires in our courses, so that's brilliant insight for all the candidates to take away with tonight. Langton, the invite is open. I think you said you weren't available for one or two of the lectures, but for the rest, you are most welcome to join us. I'm going to take one question from the chat box. There were a few questions in the chat box, but you've answered pretty much all of them except this one from Ivan. How do we get better as umpires? What platforms are there for umpires to improve their craft once they qualify for level 1, for example?
I will, without making this seem like, well, it is for me the best platform for people to learn from. And I spoke to you when you were in Harare that I started hearing about this and knowing about what you guys are doing in the Western Cape during COVID. And I thought this was the best thing that's ever happened for umpires. And I encourage people to use the networks around them, because you can only improve with what you are surrounding yourself with. They say, tell me who you spend the most time with and I'll tell you who you are. This is, I think, one of the best things that's happened for umpires and umpiring in the world. And I would encourage everyone to keep using this platform, not just for the exams, but also for making sure that they learn. And I will tell you, when Abdullah was talking about some laws, I actually had to go back to them and go, hang on, oh, that's what the law says, because I'm umpiring cricket where I don't actually have to think about laws, but I have to think about playing conditions. And I actually learned a lot today, and that reinforced stuff that I'd forgotten and stuff that I never had to think about. Because if you think about the cricket I'm umpiring now, I don't have to worry about if I'm going to be a replacement umpire, I should only stand at square leg. I don't think about that, because I know if I'm a replacement umpire, I'm taking part in the game as much as the other guy that was umpiring was. You probably know, well, some guys here would know what happened in Sri Lanka now, where one of the umpires couldn't finish a game. He umpired in day 1 and he couldn't umpire the game. The guy who came in then umpired the 4 days, and he's now test umpire number 500. And he didn't even think about the fact that he was only going to umpire at square leg, because in the cricket he was umpiring, you don't worry about that. But it's in the laws. And you go, oh, that's what the law says. And that's something that that was reinforced today when Abdullah was talking about law too. And this, for me, is one of the best ways people can learn. So I would encourage everyone to use this resource, use these people, Abdullah and Tom, and all the people on the call, if you've got contacts for them. Learn from them as much as you can. I don't know if it works for you guys, but something that I was thinking about while we were on the call is, do you guys have some sort of support for people after the training? Because the training is not the easy bit, but it's the start of something. Can there not be some sort of network where you guys can go, whether it's a WhatsApp group, whether it's a call for people after they're done with their level 2 or level 3, and you said the last exam is only for South African, but when people are umpiring, they can have some sort of platform. I'm actually asking you to have that sort of platform where people can go, I experienced this in my game. How do we handle this? Because the training side is for the exam, but when people start umpiring, there probably isn't anyone who supports them in the world. And since you started this, is there an opportunity for you to have a support network for people on the call who will then become umpires after they start after they pass and start umpiring, to go, I experienced this in a game, how do we handle this?
Yeah, thanks, Langton. Look, it's been an amazing journey since 2020 when we started this online lecturing for level 1, 2, and 3 courses. And as you mentioned, our footprint has grown from Cape Town to the rest of Western Province, to the rest of South Africa, to the rest of Africa, and into the world. So we're really proud of what we've achieved, and it fills us with so much joy and pride when we see the umpires that we've trained progress in their particular levels in their particular countries. And we built relationships mainly through WhatsApp, really. That is the easiest platform, I think, for communicating. And we do have umpires who still contact us after their games, WhatsApping about a problem they had, an issue they had, or a law or a playing condition that came up and they weren't sure exactly how to apply it. So it's not a formal structure yet. Maybe it's something that we can and should put in place in a formal manner. We'll definitely think about it and take it on board. So thanks for the suggestion. We're always looking to improve, not just the umpiring levels across the world, but in how we deliver our training and services to all our candidates. So definitely taking that piece of advice on board. Langton, I'd like to close our question and answer session with you by reading a message in the chat box from Enesi from Nigeria, who you know very well. He says, "Hi, Langton, just so you know, I love you, my brother, for fine-tuning my umpiring, for pushing me to strive to being my best self as an umpire." And I think that speaks to what you mentioned earlier about we're not competing against any other umpire. We're competing against our former selves to be better tomorrow than what we were yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, that's very kind of NSC to say. And I enjoyed working with him last week in Dar es Salaam. That was fun. And it's good to see how he's grown over the years. I first saw him last year. We've been talking for about 2.5, 3 years now. But it's amazing to see how he's taken his umpiring from where he was when I first saw him umpiring last year to where he is now. And I hope to see everyone on this call take their umpiring to the next level, because when they get better, it pushes people that are above them to try to get better as well. And it improves umpires and umpiring all over the world. So I'm happy to hear that he's doing well. And I will say to you in closing, you and Abdullah are doing an amazing job. And I'm very excited about what you guys are doing. And I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do in the future, because I know you can only do more than what you're doing, because you've done so much for African umpires. You've done so much for Western Cape. And I know now you're going to do so much more for world umpiring, because you are now reaching the world. So keep doing what you're doing and keep supporting, helping, developing umpires all over.
Awesome. Will do. Thank you so
very
much for the kind words and your time, Langton.